welcome to The Narrowing Path, Walking the Spiritual Walk. My name is Stephen Van Eidestein. Thank you for joining me today for the March 7th reading of James Allen's Daily Meditations, and I'm looking forward to it. Yesterday's was great about how character shaped our destiny, and free will shapes our fate. Free will is the choices we make, which make our character, and our character shapes our destiny. So got me thinking about a lot of things. It really did got me remembering why I wanted to change, because the life I used to be living wasn't taking me anywhere. And I've been blessed with a life much better just because of starting to follow this journey. So, this is, I'm looking forward to today's. This will be fresh to you, fresh to me. Meaning I will have not read this prior to reading it on this podcast. So you get my genuine reactions, response, and observations and what I relate to about the reading as we go through it. So I'm looking forward to it. Here we go for March 7th of James Allen's Daily Meditations. Every form of unhappiness springs from a wrong condition of mind. All sin is ignorance. It is a condition of darkness and undevelopment. The wrong thinker and the wrong doer is in the same position in the school of life as the ignorant pupil in the school of learning. He has yet to learn how to think and act correctly, that is, in accordance with law. The pupil in learning is not happy so long as he does his lessons wrongly. And unhappiness cannot be escaped while sin remains unconquered. Life is a series of lessons. Some are diligent in learning them, and they become pure, wise, and altogether happy. Others are negligent and do not apply themselves, and they remain impure, foolish, and unhappy. Happiness is mental harmony. I love the way this one opened up. Every form of unhappiness springs from the wrong condition of mind. It's emphasizing again how we think, but it's very specific about what it's talking about right here, right? It's talking about, that happiness, that joy, and that contentment that people get out of life, and how sometimes you can just look at somebody and know that they get that constantly. They're constantly in a state of contentment and peace and joy and happiness in life. And for a long time, I incorrectly associated that state with the attainment of material things, money, objects, prestige, things like that. It took me a while to realize that state came first from the mental condition. And if the mental state does not precede the material, you won't even enjoy the material. That's a hard lesson learned for me. So, the opening, every form of unhappiness springs from a wrong condition of the mind. If there's something disappointing you, upsetting you, pulling you off-centered, disturbing your peace, it's a condition of your mind that is wrong. The way you're thinking about something is incorrect. The perspective you're holding needs to be changed. The next line is extremely powerful, short, and to the point, and which is all good because it leaves less space for me to question and make things up or interpret and twist, because that's what my mind likes to do. I like to make narratives fit what I want them to rather than let them be the honest truth, and then I form to them. Right? I take actions according to reality. I don't try to make reality. I don't manipulate reality into some delusion to fit my narrative. But so when things are short and to the point, I appreciate it for that reason. And this next sentence, perfect example. All sin is ignorance. Very definitive there. All sin is ignorance. Point blank, period. It is a condition of darkness and undevelopment. So the light of truth is darkness. That makes me think of like the light of truth, the light of awareness. These things that means it has not been shown on it. It has not had the individual has not had the proper information to develop that thought process and that perspective around the sin. So if all sin is ignorance and the condition is a condition of darkness and development, it means it needs to be explored. It needs to have the light of awareness shed on it. It needs to be, and the perspective needs to be changed. But it can be corrected, which is an amazing thing. The wrong thinker and the wrong doer is in the same position in the school of life as is the ignorant pupil in the school of learning. I like that comparison he's making here. The wrong thinker to the ignorant pupil. So when you're in the first years of school, you certainly aren't going to know what you're going to know when you graduate school. So how can you be held at fault for it in the sense of condemnation in this sense? You don't have the information available to do anything differently. When I was out there and drinking and drugging, and I didn't know there was another solution for me. That's what I'm relating this to immediately, and there's probably a lot more instances in my life where I can actually bring this in, but the biggest and most obvious one is I didn't know there was a different way for me to live. I mean, obviously I knew people didn't do the drugs I was doing on a regular basis, daily basis like I was, and drinking, but I didn't know how they did it, and it didn't feel like it was possible for me. So I was in a place of ignorance. I didn't know. I didn't know what was going on with me. I didn't know there was a different way to live for me, for a guy like me. So again, the wrong thinker and wrong doer is in the same position in the school of life as is the ignorant pupil in the school of learning. He goes on. He has yet to learn how to think and act correctly. That is, in accordance with law. That's what I was just saying. It's we haven't, when someone's committing a sin, they haven't been brought into the light of awareness as to what's going on with that, right? They haven't been taught and they haven't learned to think and act correctly in regards to that sin. They don't have enough information yet to make the change. And when we admit that and when we know that, we can educate someone on that. At least ourselves. If we can do it to ourselves, we can usually pass it along. But let's make sure we do it to ourselves first, because this is our own condition we're talking about currently, right? And that's in accordance with spiritual law too, right? All these spiritual principles, spiritual values, spiritual disciplines. The life we live while walking this spiritual walk. The pupil in learning is not happy so long as he does his lessons wrongly and unhappiness cannot be escaped while sin remains unconquered. So, doing less things wrongly, in other words, committing sin, leads to unhappiness, discontentment, restlessness, irritability, a separateness from oneself almost, right? And one's fellows. It causes unhappiness. It causes more pain in our lives. But until we actually get the information we need, or the information that's appropriate for that, we'll continue to do it. Because we won't know any better. And it'll show up in different ways most of the times. We'll try to manage it, but we're always going to have the same outcome. He then follows it all up with, life is a series of lessons. If you can remember that and associate that mindset when you're going through something, whether it's a successful experience or the experience was something to be considered a failure, it's all lessons. It's all learning, it's all growing, it's all teaching. After failures, you will be better for them. You might not be where you were hoping to be with a success, but you will be better for the failure still. Again, I think I mentioned it early on, failures become a very taboo and avoided word, but I think it's essential. It's crucial to the actual growth and maturity of an individual to be able to continue to strike out and learn, right? To change from our ways of ignorance and sin. We have to be willing to fail and learn those lessons. Some are diligent in learning them, and they become pure, wise, and altogether happy. Diligence. 2 days ago, I believe. Was it 2 days? I don't remember what day it was, but somewhere since we've gotten into March, there's been talk of just diligency and how there's no nobler pursuit than purifying one's character, I think is what... Oh, on March 2nd, it says, there's no nobler work or higher science than that of self-perfection. And then it says that he who aims at calm, wise, and seen mind engages the most sublime task that man can undertake. That was March 2nd. So we're kind of bringing in a couple of things here, right? So if you're diligent in these, you can eventually step into these qualities of purity, wisdom, and happiness. Though we can still choose not to learn the lesson. That's where the fall down is, isn't it? That's where pain can get excruciating, because we don't actually adhere to the lesson, remember the lesson, take the lesson seriously, or even look for it. Some people just write off an experience as, hey, that happened, and move on. They don't actually take a look at things, but this second to last line, others are negligent and do not apply themselves, and they remain impure, foolish, and unhappy. So when the information's provided to them, the opportunity to learn the information, they still turn away from it. And when that's done, they remain impure, foolish, and unhappy. You keep making these same mistakes out of ignorance because you didn't allow the new information in to change your actual perspective, to change your actual behaviors and thinking. I know many people like that. I was like that when faced with just the obvious reality of things. I still would think my way was the only way it was going to work for me. This goes ahead and ends with another simple line. Happiness is mental harmony. When everything's aligned, you're not sinning, you have this sense of self-awareness and growth. and a joy and love of life. When your mind, when things are aligned, happiness occurs. Happiness abounds. What a beautiful promise that is. Just fantastic promise. So, all right. I will wrap this up here. Thank y'all for jumping on again with me to hear the daily reading from James Allen, and I hope everyone's enjoying it as much as I have. If you feel so inclined, please go to Facebook and give us a like, give us a follow. And we're growing our following right now just to see what happens and hopefully get a little bit broader reach with these messages, because there's so much good stuff that's coming out of this, and I'd love to continue to share it with as many as I can. So thank y'all so much for joining me, and we'll be back on for March 8th tomorrow. And until next time, thanks.